Hello, welcome to Central Florida Salute. I'm your host, Bob Peters. I am here at Eagles 4273, our home base, and I have the honor of having an Army veteran, Jim Korolowicz. Did I say it right?
You did.
I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself. I don't really know you per se, but I've seen you around here once in a while. But we have a mutual friend, Jim Ross, who was the area president here for a while. And he told me about you, and he said, you should interview this guy. So here you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally?
Well, I was born in Detroit, raised up and grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, St. Clair Shores, Michigan. And after I retired, we moved down here to Leesburg, Florida, in Arlington Ridge. And we're somewhat of a snowbird. We go back for 3 months, 3.5 months back to Michigan, in the upper part of Michigan. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the time we spend here in wonderful Arlington Ridge.
Well, I live in wonderful Plantation, okay?
Yeah.
There's a lot of wonderful places around here, Jim, all right? But we're here to talk a little bit about your career in the service. You went in right after high school? Did you get drafted, or how did that work?
Well, I kind of left high school in the 11th grade, thought I was going to have a great adventure. So I quit in the 11th grade and joined the Army.
So did your parents sign for you, or did you forge it?
Well,
Come on.
now that
Fess up.
Now that the statute of limitations are over, the recruiter, back then they were looking for bodies.
Yeah.
Vietnam was starting to smoke. So I went into recruiter, said I want to join. He said, fine, but you're only 17, so your folks have to sign for you. And I said, well, my folks are Polish immigrants, and they're outside in a car. How about I go let them sign? And he said, sure, here's a pen, take the papers. I signed my mom's with my left and my dad's with my right. Of course, my parents were Polish and Ukrainian, but they weren't immigrants. They were second, third generation. They were second.
Yeah.
And I kind of forged their names. And then the next day I went home and told my dad, hey, on your way to work, he worked for Sears and Roebuck.
Oh, by the way.
Dropped me off at Fort Wayne Induction Center because I joined the Army. And of course, he went ballistic. He was a Navy man in World War II on a battleship. And he dropped me off and I was in.
So were they surprised at that, or
upset?
Upset?
Yeah. Well, my dad was upset because he thought, well, maybe you should have joined the Navy if you should have done anything.
Yeah.
And, 3 squares a day and have your clothes cleaned and nice cot to sleep in. And I ended up joining the Army. But they got over it.
Yeah.
Until they got a couple telegrams that the year I was in Vietnam, and that kind of upset them. But other than that, they were okay with it.
Yeah, I did a show many years ago with a gentleman about the underage military veterans, and they became a group, because they were worried about, similar to what they going in too young. And he told me a story about one time with Eisenhower. Was on the parade field with a young lady who joined. She was 12 years old. He told her to go home and come back. But there's so many people that did that, especially during World War II. And I've heard a couple of guys like yourself at 17 going in, But so anyway, you here you are, and you're on your way to where?
Actually, most everybody from my area went to Fort Knox, Kentucky. But Fort Knox was full, so we were all sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey. And I went to basic training there. And when I graduated from basic, I went to AIT, Advanced Infantry Training, same place, Fort Dix. And then at the end of graduation at Advanced Infantry Training, 1/3 went to the Old Guard in Washington, D.C. that does the monuments and all the ceremonies. 1/3 went to Germany, and I was in the wrong line.
Yep.
I had Operation Diamond Head, which we didn't know what it was, but all the DIs were laughing at us because they knew what it was. We were being sent to Fort Carson, Colorado, and the whole brigade was going to be deployed to Vietnam because it was right after the Tet Offensive. And we were going to reinforce Quezon.
Yeah, that Tet Offensive was something else. So you came right in after that. You were in the thick of it. You're in the thick of it. So you got on a plane and there you are, right?
Well, actually, it's kind of unique because being at Fort Carson, Colorado, we were right across the street from the Air Force Academy.
That's
So
right.
we got on buses and went across the street and to the Air Force Academy's tarmac, and they flew us right out of there. 27 hours. We flew from Colorado Springs to Travis Air Force Base. They refueled. We landed on Wake Island, which was a story in itself. And then we went to Guam. One of the planes had some issues, so we landed in Philippines. And then from the Philippines, we flew to Da Nang. And we couldn't land because there was a rocket attack going on. So we circled for a while, and then we landed in Da Nang. And then got out of Da Nang, and we jumped on C-130s and flew to Quang Tri.
Jumped out of a C-130?
No, we didn't jump. We walked onto a C-130.
Oh, you walked onto it, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
No,
okay.
we didn't. We weren't airborne.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your experiences there when you got there.
Well, we got there, and unfortunately, the ships came with our tracks. We were actually mechanized infantry, but our tracks had not arrived yet, and some of our equipment haven't arrived yet. So we were digging sandbags or digging and filling sandbags for the first couple of weeks, and finally all our equipment came. Then we became a regular unit and moved out. And we never went below Quang Tri. We were in Dong Ha, Cantien, A1, A2, Khe Sanh twice, towards the Laotian border, and quite an experience.
I imagine being 17 years old, or
Well, I was 18 when I got there.
Oh, you're 18,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had orders when I was 17 to go to Vietnam, but you have to be 18. So I turned 18 May 1st, and I was in Vietnam July 21st.
The youngest guy killed in Vietnam was African American. I think he was 17 or 16, something like that. He's on the wall. That's how I know that.
Okay.
But you spend a lot of time on patrol, or what?
So we did a lot of search or destroy missions. Even though we were mechanized, we humped most of the time because obviously armored personnel carriers, APCs, couldn't go through the jungle very far. So they would stop and we would get off and go for 2 or 3 days from there and come back. We did maybe 3 or 4 helicopter assaults, Chinooks and Hueys landed. And the main time with our tracks and tanks, because we were in first of the 61st, the 1st Infantry or 5th Infantry Division, and we had a battalion of tanks with us. Anytime we went to Khe Sanh, we had a huge convoy of tracks and tanks. Khe Sanh had been closed, and we went back twice to kind of patrol around there and not reopen there was no airfield or anything, it was all bombed up and everything.
Yeah.
And had quite a terrible time there twice. Because you're almost real close to the DMZ.
Yeah. I did an interview with a guy, Marine. He was with the tanks over there in Vietnam. The Marines no longer have tanks. Did you know that?
No, because
They all belong to the Army now. You guys got them all.
usually the Marines got everything we threw away.
Well,
And actually, the 1st and 3rd Marine Division every 6 months would swap from Da Nang to Quang Tri back and forth. So we were the only Army at the time up there in '68. Most of the Army had went a little bit south of there, and it was just the 1st or the 3rd Marine Division, who ambushed us a couple times.
yeah.
We were in the wrong place.
Yeah. Well, 68, 69, 66, 69, 8, 70, those are all the big years, when the fighting was the most, So I guess you saw your share, huh?
We did. Most everybody in my units had at least 1 Purple Heart, most 2 or 3.
Did you get wounded at all?
Twice.
Really?
September 2nd, 1968, I got hit, and February 22nd, 69, I got hit.
So you have 2 Purple Hearts.
Yeah, but I always wondered about Purple Hearts. maybe the guy that got me should have got a medal rather than me getting one for getting hit. But, you know, they give us one, so I took it.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve it, you know. And one good thing about a Purple Heart is you always got free health care now.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
I'm kind of looking at the positive
Those,
side,
yeah,
Jim.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those that are KIA get a Purple Heart, but they don't get to use anything.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
So, you spent a lot of time in the hospital when you or were they minor
No.
wounds or what?
Yeah, I would say I wasn't walking wounded the first time, but the first time I got hit September 2nd, in my leg and out my you-know-what. I guess you could call it I was making a controlled retreat. I had a through-and-through wound, so I had to lay on my belly for a few weeks because of drainage.
Yeah, right.
I was on the USS Sanctuary, so I like to tell my dad I was in the Navy for 8 weeks because the first time I was on there 6 weeks, and then the next time in February when I got hit, we hit a mine and I was inside. We had just come off we had 3-man killer teams. We would do ambushes, and if you did an ambush that night, you could sleep during the day because you stayed up all night. And I got inside one of the tracks, which obviously is lined with grenades, ammo, and gas, CS gas.
Mm-hmm.
So I went inside the track and started to doze off, and the great lieutenant decided he wanted to move us to the other side of a river. And as he moved, we hit a mine and the track blew up and flipped over. Thank
Now,
goodness.
when you say a track,
Armored personnel carrier.
okay, you're not
APC.
talking a tank. You were inside of it.
No.
Okay.
No, armored personnel carrier. It's
Yeah. It's like a truck. No?
No, it's I don't know how to describe it. We had a 50 on top, and 2 60s on the side, and the 60 for the driver.
Wow.
It was a very well armed to track it. Best way to describe
Vehicle.
it probably is if you've seen the Marines amphibious that come up on the shore, this was like half of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was like the same thing like a tank. It had had a track on it. And it went like that. Yeah.
So you,
So all the gas blew up.
so they
Thank
woke you
goodness.
up.
Well, I never woke up. I woke up about 3 days later on the USS repos. So I got to go do both hospital ship tours. And, thank goodness the only thing that blew up inside the track was the gas, the CS gas. And I kind of gassed everybody they tell me at the field hospital. They had to take me outside to work on me. But I really only had a bad concussion and a couple little scrapes. A lot more of the guys on the track that were on top, my friends, a couple of them got severe, including one with who was my best friend, had a traumatic brain injury because he hit the shield of one of the M60 turrets.
Wow. Wow. So you were there most of your time in the Army. You were over there, no?
Well, my first year and a half, besides the training, basic and AIT, then Vietnam for a year, and then I had 18 months left. So when I got off the plane at Fort Lewis, where we landed, we didn't land at Fort Lewis, we landed at the SeaTac airport, and they bussed us back to Fort Lewis. They said, "You're going back to Fort Carson." And I said, "Well, I really don't think I want to go back to Fort Carson to play Army, because I just went through Vietnam and I don't think my discipline would be that great. Is there anything else I can do?" And this one guy on the side said, "You want to be a drill sergeant?" And I said, "Drill sergeant?" He said, "Yeah, right here at Fort Lewis." And I said, "You know what? Sign me up." So 30 days after my leave, I went back to Fort Lewis and I went to drill sergeant school, which is 8 weeks, similar to basic.
Yeah.
And I was 19, so I was the youngest DI on post, and a lot of the lifers were from Korea and Germany, and they kind of didn't like. There was 2 of us that had gone through there, younger, that were Vietnam vets and combat veterans. And back then, most of the guys that were DIs were infantry. So I love that part of it.
You're one of them guys who wake them up early in the morning and say, let's go and all that?
I did that.
I remember that.
Yep, we shook them up. We shook the civilian out of them for the first
Yeah.
couple weeks, and then we slowly acclimated them into the military life. But they knew I was a short timer, and I was young, and I told them about my experiences, and I told them I'm here to do one thing: keep you alive. And I had a good group. I went through like 6 or 7 cycles of trainees, and I might be the only DI that ever got gifts when the class graduated. For some reason, they liked me, so they always gave me a little gift at the end.
Wow.
But it was a great experience.
So that's where you finished up your career as a drill instructor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they asked me to re-up, but I was homesick and wanted to get back home, and
Had enough.
yeah, and I did. I left.
Yeah. Any regrets?
No, because I ended up actually at the last couple of weeks of my service, they had a thing called Project Transition, getting back into civilian
Right.
life.
Yeah. The real world.
Yeah, and I signed up for a couple things, drafting at the end. None of them, they were all full. So I signed up for this postal service, and I took the exam, and I did everything, and these wonderful people that came in, letter carriers, gave a great class, and I ended up making a career out of being a mailman, or letter carrier, because now we had women too, and became involved in the union and became a national officer for the union. So my life, if I wouldn't have done that in the service, I probably never would be able to afford to live here.
Yeah, mine kind of parallels that a little bit. When I got out of the Air Force, I didn't know where I was going to go. Somebody said, go down to the power company, and I got interviewed on like December, and in January they called me in. And I remember talking to the guy who was doing the hiring, and there was somebody else came in and wanted to put in an application. He says, well, it's going to be over a year. This guy put one in last year. Didn't you, Bob? And I said, yeah. It was December. This is January. So that was last year. But I did 31 years with the power company, and they were great. They hire veterans. A lot of. That's the one thing we had when we came out of the service during our lifetime. A lot of companies would hire the veterans. I think they still do nowadays.
25% of the workforce in the Postal Service is veterans.
Yeah, and I also got involved with the union. I was the president of my local.
I was the president, and I became a national business agent, and I became assistant secretary treasurer in Washington, D.C.
Wow, you went up there.
Without being in the service, I probably never would have had the opportunity.
I agree with you. And me either.
Because again, I was somewhat uneducated because I left in the 11th grade, even though I did go to school after I got out.
You must have got a GED, right?
Yeah, I got a GED, but then I went to a couple years for community college under the GI Bill, which helped me buy my first house.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And you're living the dream in Arlington.
Living the dream in Arlington.
That's good for you. Good for you. So, any one thing that stands out that you might want to talk about, or anything you might want to say to who's ever watching?
Well, the people that have served, particularly those that served in combat, you have a different kind of a swagger. You look at things a little bit different than most people do. Those who fought for freedom, even though Vietnam may have not been like World War II, fight for freedom, but you're still fighting because the guy next to you, left or right of you, but you were still being asked by your country to do this particular job. We never lost a battle. We may have got moved back a few times, but every time we did something, we made sure we took it over. Despite all this Hollywood things about killing babies and doing dope and all this stuff, I never saw that. I'm not going to say we never took a hit of marijuana in our lives, but I see more guys get hurt trying to save a kid than I do see anybody ever harm anybody. We respected the enemy because we fought NVA. We didn't fight very many VC. We had a few, but the majority of them were full-fledged NVA, North Vietnam Army, and extremely talented zappers. I don't know if you know what a zapper is, but they're probably like our Rangers or SEALs. They could crawl all night long to get 2 feet, and they were extremely good soldiers. We didn't have any bad incidents where we, go berserk in a village. We did everything. We had very few people. Where I was, again, it was totally different. I was in I Corps above Quantry. We had, if it moved, we could shoot at it. And as gross as that may sound, it's because most of the villages and things were already wiped out and gone. We didn't have large, outside of Quantry, which we never really went into, we didn't have large villages and people. Where we were at was either nothing or the enemy. And it made it a lot easier for us because we didn't have to worry about having civilians. There were times that we did a cord arm around a village or two, and that's where I said that I saw more people trying to save kids than harm them. And we were, we gave food, we gave cigarettes, we did everything that we could. A few times we had the smaller villages that were near or outside Dong Ha area, but majority of the time our operations were nothing. There was never villages or our search and destroy was jungle. I did have a funny story about a tiger if you want to hear about it.
Yeah, I heard a story about some chickens before, and our friend Doug. But now I'd like to hear the one about the tiger.
I can tell you that my story is probably a whole lot better than Doug's story about chickens, unless you're at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Okay.
This was in late in '69, a couple of months before we went back to Quezon for our last time. And we were in an area that had elephant grass. And I don't know if you know what elephant grass is, but it's, you can imagine being out in the fields of Nebraska where the wheat and everything is blown around. Well, elephant grass is like that, except that it's like razor blades. And you constantly get cut up by elephant grass. I don't know why they call it elephant grass. They should have called it razor grass. But anyway, we were in our normal thing. You walk all day, 2 or 3 clicks, and then you dig a hole and set up a perimeter and hopefully don't get attacked that day. We, right as we were setting up the perimeter, a Bengal tiger ran through our perimeter. And our captain jumped on the track with the 50 and wanted to go get this tiger. He wanted to kill it to have a
trophy.
Typical officer. But it didn't. It ran through, and that was it. And it was, it was from here to your cameras. It was fairly close to us.
Which is probably about 10 feet.
Yeah, and it was rather skinny. Obviously, with all the bombing and shooting, there wasn't a lot of game. They did have deer out there, but deer were real small.
Yeah.
Large dog, maybe. But anyway, so it ran through and all the, Yahoo and everything going on, and wish we could have got that tiger. I happened to get selected with 2 other guys to be a listening post. And you know what a listening post is? When you have a perimeter, you got 4 sides where 3 or 4 people go out ahead of the perimeter. And it's an early warning system. So the 3 of us went out, and we had just received new kind of canteens. The old canteens were a plastic canteen. I don't know how much water, quart of water, whatever. We just got these 2 quarters, which were soft. When you drank them, they deflated. Okay, and then when you fill them up, they were almost like a pillow. So we had these for a few weeks. So we went out, and we were in this elephant grass, which makes weird sounds at night when the wind blows. So you don't sleep, you stay awake all night. So the 3 of us were laying, and you lay flat on your back trying to hear things. And I swore I heard something. So I got up, and I heard like a growl. So I signaled to the other two guys that I think I hear the tiger. And we're whispering to each other, tiger. I go, yeah, that tiger that ran through here. And a few months before that, a Marine was killed by a tiger. Even though he shot it, it killed him. So they say, be cool, let's listen. So we all lay back down. I picked my head up again, and I heard this growl again. And I go, gee, guys, hear it? You hear this freaking tiger? I'm signaling to them. And they're not hearing it. So the third time, I get up, they grab my canteen, and they squeezed it. I had a hole in it, and it was the air was coming out, so it was making a growling sound. So for the next month, every time we walked down a trail or something, they'd yell. My nickname back then was Double O, even though I have 3 O's in my name. They said, Double O Tiger, so they teased me for about a month till they finally wore off. So that's my tiger story. I hope it beats the chicken story.
I think they're tied. But anyway, it's that had to be that was pretty good. I can tell you that was good.
Well, not too many people see a wild Bengal tiger in their life.
Yeah.
I can say I saw it twice because we saw another one a month or so after that.
Yeah. Well, you've had a great career after the service, and I'm glad you're enjoying life. And I think we're almost out of time. So, unless there's something you want to say in closing, we're going to wrap this up.
All right, wrap it up. Salute to all you guys.
Hey, listen, welcome home, brother.
Thanks. Welcome
and
home.
Join me in saying goodbye, because we have a way we say goodbye here. And I think you saw a little bit over there before, but this is how it goes. To all our veterans out there, our active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time. That's how it goes.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it, Jim.